there, Ripple Pond. It's Sarah, just one of the team, and today we are going to have a conversation with Trevor Bygate. Trevor, you will hear lots about him, and he's got an amazing story to tell. So we're going to jump straight in. I'm going to welcome Trevor, and there you are. Hello, Trevor.
Hello, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. Really good to have you with us. Thanks so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Trevor, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I currently live in Suffolk in Hadley. I settled here when I was medically discharged from the army. So I joined the army in 1998. I spent 22 years, just over 20 years, sorry, in the army. Unfortunately, I was sort of medically discharged. I travelled around the UK. So I was based at Watcham in Suffolk. Then I went to North Yorkshire for 3 years. Then I went to Germany for 2 years, and I come back here. So it was a bit, and I think I moved 7 times in that period. So yeah, it was a lot back and forward. Something, but yeah, and now I'm a civilian. So
yeah, and I guess that journey to becoming a civilian wasn't one entirely of your own choosing.
No, I mean the army. I had a great career for the first 15 years. Spent a lot of time away. Got a lot of qualifications and did some really good courses, promotions. But then there was at one point in 2014, I was on active duty. So we were away on exercise, prepping for Afghanistan. So we used to go to Arizona to use the Arizona desert, the Rangers there. And I was out in Arizona. On the 26th, we'd found out that the Lynx helicopter had crashed in Afghanistan. So that killed 5 troops. And, one of them was a close friend called James. And then, unfortunately, 4 days later, I had the traumatic message and call from my wife that my daughter Chloe had been found dead in her flat. It was a massive shock to be FaceTiming my wife and the house phone to ring at the time. And it was my parents telling her for her to relay the message to me. And then from basically at that time, my world fell apart. And, I just sort of like lost where I was. And I had to get transported back from America as quick as possible. And it was a traumatic time. And Chloe, in the inquest, it came out that Chloe had taken that Chloe had taken her own life. So it was hard at the time, and the army it was difficult to be in the army at the time. And going through such a traumatic event, it just for me wasn't the place to be, because I spent another 5 years in the army, but I was off for 4 months when she died, and I went back and I really tried hard and I went on exercise, so on and so forth, and did courses. But I just think they weren't ready for something like that. It wasn't something they'd really come across before, so the care wasn't really up to standard. But it is what it is. I don't blame them. I did at first, but I don't now, because nobody really knows what to do in that situation. And eventually I was medically discharged in 2019, 5 years after Chloe died.
I guess what point, I mean, it's just such a traumatic story. And I'm sure everyone's heart just goes out to you, because no one would want to see anyone go through something like that. I guess when did you hit a point where you knew that you needed to get some help and you needed some support that was bigger than what the army could offer?
Well, it was from the very beginning in a way, because like I said, the army it's not that we're uneducated, they just weren't ready for it. So the care started really quick, and I got that from the Royal British Legion at first. I mean, Chloe's funeral wasn't cheap, and I was going through a really bad period, and the Royal British Legion funded Chloe's funeral for me without me really knowing. Somebody had organised it for me, so they paid for a full funeral. So the weight and the burden off my shoulders was huge. So I got that care straight away from a service charity, and then while I was still serving, they funded poppy breaks for me and my family. So we went away on poppy breaks. So, but I sort of felt at times when I was serving, I was caring for myself, and I wanted to fight for change. So I went off and transferred to the Army Welfare Service. I wanted to make change internally. I didn't want other soldiers to be going through what I've gone through and be treated like I was. So I did. I transferred, but I had to withdraw 2 weeks from the end of the course because it was either pulling my family away from where they were and all the support around them, or it was me going married unaccompanied to somewhere like Ireland or Germany. I wasn't ready for that. I was still suffering with traumatic loss, but I was hell bent on making change. So I went on the course, and I was accepted on the course. I knew what I was going through, so I did do it. But eventually, I came back off the course, and I had a really difficult time coming back to the unit, which I struggled in. And then, unfortunately, I spent a couple of weeks in a psychiatric ward in Peterborough. And then when I came out, so when I came back from the welfare course, I was a fully fit soldier. I could deploy. When I came out of hospital, I never set foot back in the army after that.
Wow.
So it's a big change because you lose your identity. Yeah, I was living in a military house. I lost my job, my uniform, my identity, everything. I've got a wife and children, and other children. So it's a massive change. And the service charities have been really good for me. The Royal British Legion have always been there for me and what they do, and the Invictus stuff and things like that. So I've had to lean on a lot of people, but I'm there, sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Trevor, you don't have to go far to look on social media and see that you are doing a lot of stuff for a lot of people to make a difference. Because I think, maybe I'm saying it wrong, but it looks to me like you're making the best of your story to make a difference for other people.
Yeah. So I sort of it took me a while, but I looked at my situation. And I looked at what I'd been through, what I was going through, and where I could go afterwards. And I just really worked hard at reframing my thoughts. So I stopped blaming the army. I stopped blaming other people. I didn't blame myself, which I did for a long time. And then I just thought, what can I do with my life experiences to try and inspire others, to educate others, and make changes, just to try and save a young life. That's all I want to do. So I got involved in Papyrus, which is prevention of young suicide. I became a Papyrus champion. I've done a London Marathon for them and Great North Runs and cycling, and fundraising. But now I travel the country doing presentations. So I give suicide prevention presentations to CAMS, which is child and adolescent mental health services, police, paramedics, universities. I've got one next month to Suffolk One College, and then I've got another one mid-November to Ipswich Football Club academy coaches. So it's about using your life experiences. It's a great tool mixed in with a few qualifications, and I've tried to do that. And it is really, when you stand there and present to people, it's really powerful. You have to be mindful of your own thoughts and feelings when you're doing it, because sometimes it's never easy. But if you can reframe your thoughts while you're doing it, it is really, really powerful. And it's great to hear feedback and when people listen to you and stuff. So it really does take it in. My life came full circle last month because I was medically discharged from the army 10 years ago after leaving the army welfare course. And then last month, I delivered the suicide presentation on prevention of young suicide to over 100 army welfare officers and service charities. So it was like, I was standing in front of them. I'm like, wow, where am I now? So I was really chuffed.
I think it's really inspiring. And we talk to our members loads about telling their story, being comfortable to tell their story, because you learn so much through your own narrative, and everyone's narrative is different. But actually, at the Ripple Pond, we're all about peer support, and some of that is reactive, but some of that is that proactive, being able to tell your story and making a difference, because your story matters. And I think that's what I love seeing that you're doing, is that you're going out there and you're telling your story and you're making a differ's, and you're getting involved with those kind of charities. It's brilliant. How are you and your family doing? Like, how's your family supported you in this time? Sort of,
Yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster if I'm honest, because when so Chloe was my daughter to my first wife, but I was remarried, and my wife now knew Chloe for 13 years, and we've been married for 17 years, so she was as much her daughter as anyone else's, and she was the one that had to tell me. So it was a really traumatic time, and if I'm honest, truthfully, when Chloe died and she told me um, over the phone she got no support from the unit while I was travelling back. I never seen her for 5 days after that because I had to go and see Chloe in the chapel arrest and see the police and everything, and nobody went to visit her from the unit, which was really hard for me
Yeah,
because I said I've given you 15 years service. All I wanted is a little bit back, and so we ended up, you know, like I said, the Legion stepped in, sent us on a couple of poppy breaks, which was great. And when you go through a loss, I was grieving heavily from that trauma, but my two other children were, and I was having to support them while I was supporting myself, and my wife was the one that was keeping me up.
yeah,
17 years, 10 years later, my wife has been through the mill with me. My moods, my medication changes, all of the things I get involved in, and sometimes it's really hard to say no. So she just lets me go off and do what I need to do, um, which is hard because I have to remember how I do have a wife and children. But sometimes I've had EMDR, which is a therapy, and the I always say to the therapist that because I wasn't there for Chloe when she died, and I was away with the army, my brain tells me that I have to be there for everyone else. So every time I get the chance to do something, I'll do it,
you're
and
there.
I'll do it. So yeah, my wife's had to put up with that, but yeah, we've just supported each other. They've been amazing. My children have grown up great. My son is in university now doing physiotherapy. He's 19. And then my youngest one, Talia, she's in college doing chemistry and biology. She wants to be a dentist. So, the recovery journey's been long, hard, traumatic, draining, and tiring. But it just shows that if you've got the right people around you, then you can make really good steps forward. And I wouldn't probably be here without them, in a way, sort of thing.
Is there anything you
Mm.
as a family have done that's really worked well for you to kind of help keep you together? And
Um, we've done. I don't know because I've worked a lot. I mean, when I left the army, I had to I had to find a house to live, and
yeah,
because I was in a military house, and I had to find a job to pay for it. So I've worked a long hours
yeah,
and stuff. But we do try to have the odd holiday. But we had our first holiday this year in about 6 years. So
same
and
for
my
us.
son
We
played
managed our
football.
first holiday, and it was like, my goodness, this
Yeah,
is amazing.
yeah. And my son, before he went to uni, he played football, so I always took him to his football matches.
Yeah,
My daughter Talia's a bit younger, and if I'm honest, I didn't do enough with her. So now he's away in uni, I need to try and do a bit more with my wife and daughter because if I'm honest, I've fully committed to my mission of doing what I'm doing, and
yeah,
I'm also a Cruse bereavement support worker as well. So
yeah,
I just thought, I thought, how else could I use my life experiences to help each other? And I thought, well, I'll do the 6 weeks Cruse bereavement support worker course. So now I can sit through 6 sessions with the client and go through
amazing.
their loss and bereavement journey and just try and help them as best I can. And I've had clients and I've got some really good feedback. So it's been really good to
It's
do stuff like
amazing.
that. Mm.
Have you has your family sort of received support from anywhere in particular as you've kind of gone through your journey? Obviously, the Poppy Factory, the Poppy holidays with RBL. Have there been other bits and pieces that have just been helpful?
Um, Well, once you get into the Invictus Games family, then that
Yeah,
is really good.
I
There's a
would
lot of
love to
involvement
hear
there.
more about the Invictus family. Tell us about it because that's been quite a journey as well. I don't even know how
Yeah,
you fit all this in.
you just do. um, yeah, so the Invictus Games, I went for it for the Dusseldorf one. I didn't get selected for that, but I did get chosen for the extra games, which was in America. So I was lucky enough to go to Las Vegas for 2.5 weeks in the American Air Force trials. And then this year, you had to do like a week's battle back at Lilleshall, which is funded by the British Legion. They paid for it. So we all remember that the work the volunteers do is everything that we receive is funded by them and the hard work. And then when you get into the Invictus, when you're selected, the families sort of get selected. So we did a families weekend when we went away, and that was funded by the women's section of the Royal British Legion. We went away to Kingswood for a weekend, and it was all activities and climbing up ropes and stuff. And then the families can come to the Invictus Games next year. So I'm taking my wife. Unfortunately, my children can't come because it's not in the school holidays, and my son's at uni and can't afford to miss 2 weeks, and my daughter can't afford to miss 2 weeks college because she's really hell bent on becoming a dentist. But yeah, they do surround you. They get invited into WhatsApp groups. My wife will get Kit to go to Canada. There's all sorts that they get involved in. There's ambassadors to help them and support them, and it's a really massive occasion that they take you under their wing. And it's not. I'm there recovering, using recovery sport as recovery and to help me, but it helps them as well. It gives them a sort of an outlet. Probably because we train once a month for a weekend, so I go away Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it probably gives them a break from me for a few days. But yeah, it is. And other than that, and the Royal British Legion, it's just we've just stuck together. I have got parents who have been really, really good, and my wife's family as well. But I'm fortunate that I've had family around me. It was a difficult situation because it's suicide. A lot of people don't know what to say, so you do find as though a lot of friends drift away. And I did find that for a while. There's a lot of friends that have never spoke to me since the day, and that's 10 years. And sometimes I get it, not everyone knows what to say. So, but yeah, the family base just sticking together, working through it, and self-help as well. I've helped myself quite a lot with all of the stuff I do. The psychiatrist said I've been self-healing. That's what he said to me.
I can see that. I can really see that. You said people don't know what to say. If our members have got someone close to them that's going through like a really difficult bereavement, really difficult situation, and they don't know what to say, what would you suggest?
Sometimes you don't have to say too much because we have to be mindful of what the person who's lost someone's thought and feelings are. But it's just if you are brave enough to offer that shoulder to lean on, always letting them know that you're there for them if they need to talk over a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. Highlighting that they're never alone, and we do move forward eventually. I always say we don't move on, we move forward, because I think that when people say move on, we're leaving the person behind, but when you move forward, you take them with you, and it's just trying to get that mindset. So it's just offering your support, just so that person knows that you're there if they need you, and they might never need you, but there might be a time where they do, and if they know it, then they've got the option. And it's giving them the option. If we don't give people the option, they won't know it's there, and then they won't talk and they won't open up. And we've got to do that. And I do that with all my suicide prevention as well. We have to get into schools and colleges and unis and talk to the young people and educate them in terminology and language to use, and give them a safe space to open up. So yeah, if someone's at a place where they have lost someone, it's like the Cruse. But when someone comes to Cruse, I give them 6 sessions, and they can talk if they want for 6 sessions, for an hour each session. They can lead it. I can lead it. They can pick certain things. So it's really, really interesting.
I think it's that, isn't it? It's that being with someone. You don't actually have to have the right words all the time, but if you don't know what to say, it's just be there. It's just being present, isn't it? That makes the world of difference. And I love what you say about grief. You move forward with grief, because it becomes a part of your life, isn't it? And you carry it, and it pops up at various different times along the way.
It's it's one of those things. So I've come a lot more educated, and for probably about 8 years since Chloe's been gone 10 years, but for the first 8 years, my grief ruled my life,
Yeah.
and it powered everything I did. But now I rule it, if you know what I mean. So I would do everything for Chloe. I would put everything aside. Nobody else would matter, and I did this, and this. But eventually you do grow around it, and the grief doesn't get smaller. You get bigger, and that's what we try to tell people, that you will get bigger than the grief, and you will control it. It won't control you, and that's quite a powerful thing to try and remember. It will all depend on the type of grief, where, how, what, where, why, and when, and stuff. But it's about having that support. And we talk about just being there for somebody. You don't have to be there. You don't have to say anything. And when we do the cruise course, silence is a good thing. You can sit there for 10 minutes and someone can be silent, but the fact of the matter is that you're there,
Yeah.
and that's all that matters, sort of thing. So, yeah.
So it's so important. It really is.
Mm.
I guess a sort of a bit of a double question, but I imagine you have the anniversaries every year from losing Chloe. What do you guys do as a family? Do you do something together, or?
So that's difficult, because the anniversary of when Chloe died was hard, because I wasn't here anyway. So normally, if my wife is working and the children are at school, college and uni and stuff like that, we try and keep life as normal as possible. But I will go off and do stuff like, sometimes I go to, when we live in Suffolk, I live near Felixstowe, so I used to go to the beach and I'd buy a helium balloon and I'd write a message on it, and then I'd let it go, and then just watch it go, and float up to the sky. Sometimes I would just go, because when she died, I went to the church every month for 3 months and lit a candle. So sometimes I go and sit in there and have a coffee. And so you deal with, but like birthdays, I still get a birthday card, and a cake, and we share it. Christmas, they think I'm crazy in the post office, because I go to the post office to post the Christmas card, and it'll have Chloe's name on it, and it'll have heaven and God as the postcode, and I hand it over, and the woman just will look at me and think, okay, and she just takes it, sort of thing. So you do things like that. But I always try to say to people, what we do is normal for us, so we have to normalize our life, and not feel abnormal, and doing these things are special for us. It's one of those things. Everybody grieves differently, we have to remember. So we have to be mindful of that, and it is one of those things we have to remember.
Yeah. We have a slightly different situation, but every year I buy my daughter, who passed away, a birthday present, and but rather than keep it for ourselves, we give it to someone. So we'll donate something to charity, or something, because her life matters, right? Her life really matters, and its impact keeps making a difference. And I think that's really important, that we hold those things, that's what makes us us. I guess it is, you reflect on yourself. Chloe's life has probably massively changed you as a person, and loads of stuff you've learned through it that you just wouldn't have learned a different way.
Unbelievable change. I don't even know who I was 10 years ago. I cannot even remember who I was 10 years ago when I was away. My wife said to me that I never returned from America. It was somebody else that came back. And there's such a trauma. It does change you. It changes your mindset. It changes the way you learn, your moods, and everything. I still take medication at the moment, which I'd like to get off one day, but I understand I sort of still need it. And the Invictus Games is a massive help with your moods as well, keeping yourself busy. So when the psychiatrist said to me that I didn't show any signs and symptoms of complex PTSD, but we did highlight that, yes, I'm still on medication. I just run the Great North Run the day before for Papyrus, so the adrenaline was kicking in, and I was just off to give a presentation in front of 100 welfare officers. So, yeah, it can be like that. But yeah, I did change a lot, you know. Like I said, the blame was always there. But I fought really hard for that. I fought because of the delay, because of the issues I had internally within the army and the care. It really delayed my grief because I was fighting the army for 5 years, and then eventually when I came out, I could really concentrate on the grief. But I had to have therapy to try and process them both. And process putting the army issues away and the really traumatic grief away. And the therapy was amazing. It really did help me. So now I use them as a tool when I want to use them. They don't use me. You know what
I mean? Thanks, Trevor. So much stuff in there, and I know your story's a really kind of complex one in many ways. There's lots of things, but I guess if you were to speak to the Ripple Pond members and those that are, you know, caring for a loved one with either physical or psychological injuries from the armed forces, and that's their world at the minute, what would you say to them? And I guess maybe what would your sort of top tip be for them?
Yeah, I mean, when you've got somebody and you've got to care for them, you know, we all get hugely dedicated to giving our full time to the person you're caring for, and that is really important because we want them to have the best life, the best care, and you know, it's about letting them know that you're there for them. It doesn't always have to be done by yourself. You can lean on other people, family and friends, service charities, and so on and so forth. And so that person you are caring for is in the right place, getting supported in the right way. But you've got to be mindful of yourself as well. That's a big thing. I give presentations at work about burnout. Sometimes I have to listen to my own words, and you know, it is being mindful that we put such a big effort into caring for other people. Sometimes it's just about taking a little step back as a carer and thinking of self-care about for yourself. And that's, you know, it could be little things like reading a book or going for a walk or having your own hobby sort of thing. You know, it is very mindful because we don't want to become not well ourselves that we can't look after somebody else. And I think that's the happy medium. It's really not easy to get. But the more people that are educated in mental health, well-being and burnout and pressure, then it's about spotting it in yourself, but it's about other people spotting it in you as well. And it all comes together that, you know, it's about supporting each other. But yeah, that's the main thing I think. When you're caring for someone, you don't have to do it on your own if there's options there for support. And my wife cared for me for quite a lot. I mean, I still could do stuff, but she had to put up with a lot, and that was, she got the support from my parents and family and stuff, sort of thing. Sometimes my children, which was hard because they weren't that old. But you know, we stuck together. But yeah, we stick together as carers and family. And you know, if you've got any doubt or any questions or anything, just try to reach out and be ask for support. You know, don't struggle so it gets too hard. There's support always around the corner.
And I know when we've talked about a few different charities, and I know you're really passionately involved in them. Should we run through some of the ones that we were talking about beforehand? So obviously, we've got RBL. Tell us a bit about RBL and what they might be able to do.
So the RBL are brilliant. You know, they support all serving and families and veterans and the armed forces community. You know, they fund all sorts. Like I said, the poppy break financially, white goods for homes, therapy, and so on and so forth, housing. So it's all there. And I became a national RBL ambassador when I got the Invictus Games selection. So I go off and do stuff for them. Last night I launched the Suffolk Poppy Appeal in Market. So it was great to stand in front of them, talk to people, and then say, and it's with my great pleasure that I launched the Suffolk Poppy Appeal. So you get to do a lot of that.
While we're on the Poppy Appeal launching, what do you guys do as a family around time of remembrance?
So normally we would go just local. because I live in Hadley, where I was based at Watersham. It was only 8 miles away, so there's a big contingent there. And 7th Battalion normally come and do the parade there. But this year, for the first time, I'm going to the Cenotaph.
Oh, wow.
So that's going to be a big thing for me, going to the Cenotaph. My wife will obviously stay here with Talia and do local things, and my son's obviously up at uni, so he'll do something within in the university or other local areas, sort of thing. But it is about remembering uh, all veterans, all families, all soldiers lost from past conflicts. I always say that I'm a veteran, but so is my wife and children, because they went through everything with me, moved house, a lot. My wife had to leave jobs. The kids had to change schools. So, yeah, remembrance is about the loss, but it's all about the whole process that you're in, and it can be extremely sad when you really do think hard. And I try not to connect Chloe's death with remembrance,
Yeah.
because it's about the fallen soldiers, but sometimes that's difficult because I was a soldier, she was my daughter, and I never came home. Somebody else did, so I lost myself, if you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
now I'm in a place where I found myself again, but not the same person. I'm a different person.
Yeah.
So it's a ball of wool sometimes.
Isn't that
Remembrance.
emotions? Like they just kind of sometimes
Yeah.
sometimes we can unpick that and sometimes we can't. And I think it's about having that
Mm,
self-compassion that today's a
mm.
day that we can unpick, or today's not a day.
Yeah, it is. It's like when somebody showed me a picture of the journey of loss and grief, and the whole thing, and normal grief was just like a nice sort of lying down and then back up, and complicated grief, and the suicide, and that was just a scribbly line all over the place, and I get it, everyone's different, but that's what I've been through, and that's what it felt like, and sometimes it does feel like that. So I might be managing and doing all these stuff, but sometimes you do have your moments where you have to take a little step back and take a breath, like the therapist teaches you.
Do you recognize that in yourself, or is that something like your family pointing out to you? Are you all right, or are you pretty good at recognizing it in yourself?
No, I just go. I just keep going. I go for it.
Yeah.
It's like for instance, last week, Monday, I was at Essex University up till 2 o'clock in the afternoon supporting an event there. Then I went on night shift that night. Then I finished night shift the next morning. I had to go and have cruise supervision at 1 o'clock. Then I went on another night shift. Then I had my cruise client at 3 o'clock. Then I went to Farmingate School till 8 o'clock to do an event there to support them. And Friday, Saturday, I was doing a Invictus Games talk for a young girl who's running the London Marathon for the Legion. So I thought I'd give her a hand to raise some money. So she had a big function, and I went and did a talk. I can't even remember what I did on Sunday. Oh, that was it. Sunday was the
Yeah.
Hadley Papyrus Hope Walk. So Papyrus do a Hope Walk every year in October, and they do it nationally. And I organise the one in our local town. And it's just about raising awareness. Going for a walk. I get a cake, tea, coffee. People come out of a brew, and we just chat and go for a walk. So that was Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Do I? Yeah. Do I see it myself? Probably do. But yeah, people are seeing it now. My wife's always telling me, and my daughters, we are here as well, and it's really important. And yeah, I did lose track, but I've taken a bit of a step back. And November and December is quieter anyway, so I haven't got that much going on. So I'm going to try and make a concerted effort to do more stuff with them. And I
Good.
encourage people to just be mindful of that as well, of,
Yeah.
of, of not what's in you, it's about what's around you as well.
Yeah. And activity is great and being busy is great as long
Mm.
as there's space, I guess, as well, to just kind of have that moments of self-care and moments of reflection.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is. I have to listen to my own words really hard. Uh,
Oh, tell us a bit about Cruse, because obviously we've talked about those. We love Cruse. They're a brilliant charity, but
yeah.
tell us a bit more about them.
Yeah, so when Chloe died, I had a couple of sessions with Cruse, but I just don't think I was ready at the time, so I withdrew from that. But ever since I've become a Cruse bereavement support worker, so Cruse are the national bereavement charity across the UK. They do offer clients 6 sessions. It's all free, but you can have more if you want. It's just a case of the client and the bereavement worker, come into an agreement. Do you need more? We can source more and stuff. But it is an amazing charity to sit with people who know. They don't exactly know. Nobody knows what anyone's gone through, but they have. You've got to have empathy and compassion. They're the biggest skills you need, and if you've got them, doesn't matter what someone's gone through, you can try your hardest to put yourself in as close to their position as possible. And when you can do that, it does really help with the way you speak to them. And Cruse is great for the training they give you over a 6-week period. And you do sessions, you do role play when you're sitting as a client and a bereavement worker, and someone's watching you, and then they give feedback. The presentations are great. You learn so much about types of grief and stuff. And we talk about like disenfranchised grief. And that's all to do with if you don't know the person who died, but you can still grieve for them. So, for instance, a witness who's found somebody who's taken their own life, that person could grieve for them. Wow. I went to the Suicide Bereavement UK conference in Manchester a few weeks ago, and somebody did a talk about that type of grief. So Cruse do teach you all about the different types, the cultures as well, because every culture has their own way of grieving and funerals and stuff. So when you sit there, you have to look at someone's culture, background, history, and work out what you can do is best to help them. And that's what if I was there, that's what I would want for me. Somebody that's looked in. Sometimes actually, when you get a client, you don't really know that much about them, because if they don't, when they ring up and don't give much. So normally when they come to you and sit in front of you, it's about giving them the option. And if they talk, they'll talk. If they don't, then you can try and draw stuff out of them by asking the right questions. And my first ever client, I didn't really know much about, and I just introduced myself and said, thanks for coming to Cruse. How is it that you've come to Cruse, and what help and support would you like from me today? And that was it. For an hour, they spoke. So that's what it's like. It's giving them that opportunity and giving them that chance to get through the first session. And once you get through that, it can start to become a little bit easier, and they do open up a little bit more, which I've learned from my sessions is just being empathy and compassion. It makes a big difference, I'm telling you. It's free as well.
There's that phrase, isn't there, about holding space? And I think sometimes it is that kind of holding space for people. Like, this is your space. You use it how you want to use it. We're just holding it.
Exactly that. It's exactly that. You've got to obviously keep a little bit of a steer on the sessions, because them sessions are for them and them only. Sometimes when people can steer off and start going off on a tangent on other things, we're really there to help them with their grief and process it and move on. But everybody uses other different ways of doing it. So, it's just trying to get that happy medium and the right balance to suit them and to suit yourself as a worker, because you have to be mindful that I'm sitting through 6 sessions and talking about loss with someone after going through a huge trauma myself. But I'm really mindful of that. And Cruse are great. You have supervision once a month where you will sit with your supervisor and they'll talk through your sessions with you and how I felt and so on and so forth. So there's loads of safeguarding involved. It's a great place to be. So yeah, it's really, really good.
Good. And then I think the final charity we were going to talk about is Papyrus, and they do a great job. Tell us a bit more about what they do and maybe some of your involvement with them.
Yeah. So Papyrus is the national charity for prevention of young suicide. It's been around since '97, and it predominantly supports young people between the age of 13 and 35, because when the charity was formed in '97, the parents who formed the charity had lost children in that age group. It doesn't say that when someone rings out of that age group, they wouldn't get support. It's just for me, it's a guide, and it's the main mission is to support people, is to influence communities and to train people up as well. So there's the website's great. They offer presentations. So I do one. There's a 90-minute one. There's a 3.5-hour one. And then you've got the globally recognized ASSIST course, which is Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Training, which teaches people how to spot the signs and symptoms in people, what language to use, terminology, be brave enough to ask the difficult question, if a young person is struggling with thoughts of suicide, but they're not confident enough to say it, but you can see all the signs and symptoms and everything in them and what they do, and just ask them the question: do you feel? Have you had thoughts of self-harm and suicide? And the young person will think, wow, someone's just noticed me.
Yeah.
That's what they'll potentially think, and the burden will lift a little bit. So, and it is a great charity. And I got involved at first. I ran the Great North Run and I ran the London Marathon for them and stuff like that to raise funds. And then I wanted to get even more involved, so I became a Papyrus champion. And then I learned how to do the presentation and things like that. And now I travel around with stalls with all the resources, like I did at Essex University, and all the young students were coming up, and we had guys that were having little issues, and you would just sit and talk to them and support them and give them coping mechanisms and stuff. But we always do say that we have to remember that the emergency service is the first point of contact, and there's confidentiality, and sometimes you have to break confidentiality. But yeah, Papyrus, and then I became a champion, and I've travelled the country now giving presentations to. So I did one to the child death review team, which was in Essex, and there was police, paramedics, coroners, social workers there. Loads of people signed up to the assist course. Colleges, universities, Ipswich Football Club coming up, and stuff. And it's amazing to be able to do that. For me is like a huge, massive boost to stand up in front of someone and talk to them and educate them. And this is what we want to do for young people. This is how we save their life, and this is how you need to get involved, and the schools need to be invested in it. We want 2 people in every organisation who are assist trained, so they can, if someone's feeling that way, they've got someone to come to.
Yeah.
And there's so much available. Resources are there, leaflets on self-harm, pressures of exams, going through the change, all that sort of stuff. It's all out there, and it's a national charity. It's just getting people involved. You've got to be invested. You've got to be invested.
But the reality is, suicide prevention training saves lives, and so
100%. It does. Yeah. We want to get it into the military. We want to get suicide prevention into the armed forces, because I can hand on heart say it's probably not there. And how many assist trained people do they have in a unit? No, probably. I'm 99% certain of that. So it's about them saying, right, we need to invest in it. Let's use it. And there is a lot going on. COBSEO. You've heard of COBSEO?
Yeah.
So I just happened to piggyback on a COBSEO meeting as a Papyrus champion, and got involved. So now I'm part of a cluster group that we're getting together to try and get. It's improving loss and bereavement. It's improving the support for service children, and I'm part of that cluster group. But I'm now part of a team called Beyond the Wire. You heard of Beyond the Wire?
I heard about it. Yeah.
So I'm in the Beyond the Wire team. I started from the beginning because Julie asked me if I would come along, and I use my life experiences. But I'm now the vice chair of the Children and Young People Working Group, and I just try and get involved as much as possible. And it's just about improving things for the armed forces community. That's all it is about. And we've got so many service charities, which they're all absolutely amazing, because the work that they try to do is second to none, because they're just trying to improve people's lives. That's all it is about. So it's about learning off each other and collaborating together and saying, well, we can help you, you can help us, and stuff like that. And it's a great journey to be on for me, to be involved in all of these different charities.
And I think it's brilliant, isn't it? Because it's like we say, no system, no setup is perfect, but we can always be getting better. And it takes people like you, and it takes each one of us playing our part to champion that we can be a better community for each other.
I think you're right there. We look at the armed forces community. Well, we've got a massive service charities community, and to the service personnel, but the veterans and the families that have been affected need that safety net. They need someone to wrap them in cotton wool sometimes, and a lot of the times it's not there. So we rely on people like you we have to come to you guys to lean on and save lives potentially, sort of thing. And that's how important it is to have guys like yourselves and the Legion and Papyrus and Cruse. It is life saving, and that's not an exaggeration. That's what level it gets to. And it's a remembrance thing. We see a lot of stories flying about on social media today of veterans who have not been able to carry on and stuff, and that just highlights how important the role that you guys do for us as veterans and families and communities. It what would we do without it? Take it all away, there would be nothing.
Yeah. And I think, isn't that it? It's all of us playing our part, all of us, whether it's our Ripple Pond members being there for their loved ones, whether it's, all of that. If as everyone plays their part, we create a better community together.
It's special. It is special. I always say I'm not exaggerating when I say I stood in front of the Royal British Legion last night in front of all of the people, and I said, the main people I want to thank is the volunteers who go out every day and do what they do. They don't get paid. They do it because they've got selfless commitment. They've got compassion, empathy. They've got all of them skills that will save people's lives, and that's the main thing. That is the main thing for me.
Absolutely. Well, look, I feel like we could chat for ages and ages, but I think we're probably better off leaving it there. Thank you so much, Trevor, for your time, and especially when your time is clearly well used in lots of different ways. We really appreciate your time. And
you're welcome. You're welcome.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you.